Hello, everybody. We
Hello.
got another question coming at us. So somebody wrote in, my partner is no longer physically attracted to me, so no sex. We may break up. Any advice?
Big breath.
Hmm.
That's hard.
That is hard. Yeah.
Yeah, we may break up. Um, First of all, I just want to name how painful that is, to feel like you're in the space of rejection with someone that you're in a relationship with.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like a question like that, it's hard when we don't have the person here and we're not sort of like, well, tell us more about what that sounds like, what's happened. Like, I think there are a lot of different variables that could impact why her partner is saying that they feel that way. So, um, I'm saying that to say we don't want to like jump on the train of like, well, they're a jerk, dump them,
Totally. Yeah.
Um, and it's hard, and I think that's really painful to sit in that truth.
Hmm. Yeah. I think it's important to kind of honor that. I also think it's hard to know because, to your point, we don't have the other person here either. But I'm imagining it's probably hard for them too, right?
Mm,
And it's hard when feelings change. It's hard to probably feel like the bad guy. It's hard to hurt your person's feelings. It's probably hard to be honest about that stuff. And so there's a lot of hard here, I think, all the way around. And to your point, I think that's the way to mitigate jumping on the bandwagon of this person's, fuck this other guy. Cause it's like, or woman, we don't know. But um, this feels like a hard situation all the way around. And I don't
yeah.
think anybody's winning here.
Hmm. Yeah. I think what I have found has been such a strength for me as a couples therapist is that I went through the felt experience of not leaving a relationship dynamic for so long because I was scared of endings, because I was scared of the experience of being alone, and having come out on the other side of that fear and really seen like that there is so much beauty for like all people involved a lot of times when we are willing to let go of something that we're so afraid to let go of. And I can feel the energy of the fear in the question. And I would say that sometimes a moment like this becomes an invitation back to yourself.
Hmm.
And how do I say that for whatever reason, I'm going to trust that if I am willing to let go and not like cling on to something because I'm afraid, I may find that I'm held. I may find, and you will find that you're held, but I would say I may find aspects of myself that turn me on, that make
Hmm.
it so that nobody can tell me that I'm not attractive because I feel so attractive. But I
Right.
think that there's something there in um, all of us deserve, if we're in a partnership, to be with someone who is attracted to us. I just think that's the case. And again, this is like a lot of people would disagree with me and say, like, sometimes people have sexless marriages and, sometimes people have ebbs and flows in their like level of attraction. And I think all of that is true. And I think to the point that you just made, I think um, something that my mentor has talked about is like what we don't talk about as a society very often is like the betrayal that comes from like, we've signed a document, I'm in this for life. And now I'm just never supposed to feel that experience of attraction again, and you have to do this because you've stayed,
Mm.
or not you stayed, you signed on to this, and that there's something in that like that can feel like a betrayal as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do fundamentally believe in the ebbs and flows of life. And, there's life experiences, having kids, somebody dying, depression, things like that happen, menopause, right? Like hormonal changes that affect fundamentally somebody's um, desire level, if you will, regardless of you or anybody, like
Mhm.
meaning like to that person or not. Um, and I do think there is always going to be space for us to hold each other's humanity and not necessarily jump the gun, right? What's going on with this person? Like, I would want to ask, like, what kind of conversations they've had around this attraction level, what's going on for them, I guess is more my point in this. Like, are they in a
Mm,
state right now in their lives where their attraction for life, their zest for life, their sensuality for life is in kind of a negative state, right? And so is it that they're not attracted to you, or they just don't have vibrancy right now for anything in their life, right? Now I'm not saying that that's if the answer is yes, that's correct. I'm not saying that that necessarily makes the decision for you, because you might still be in a place of deciding that you don't want to stay in it. But I think there's probably nuance to the conversation, right? Like, where are you guys at in your partnership, and where are you guys at individually in your lives? And if you're listening to this and it's not cut and dry, maybe there is an opportunity here for you to, which is a little bit of what you were saying, Danae, focus on yourself and say, well, how can I bring more sensuality, pleasure, joy, embodiment into my life that has nothing to do with this other person? Right?
mhm,
And maybe I'm in a stage right now where I don't want to leave. I'm not ready to leave the relationship. Like I said, maybe there's something going on, there's a death or something stressful or whatever. And so I don't feel like I want to leave, but I do know that I can't continue moving and going forward like I am. So I would almost say, is there a way that you can take the power back, if that's your reality, and find it for yourself and not be reliant on the other person to give it to you? Not forever, right? That's not a forever solve or solution, but well, yes, and I mean, we should always be finding that for ourselves, always, forever and ever in our lives, but also that's not the only solution, I guess. Um, but you have to decide, is there an amount of time that you're willing to wait? Do you want to see the other person making progress, or like doing something about it? What are the things that you're looking for, before you decide maybe what like a next step might be? I don't know if that made sense, or I
mm.
just rambled.
Yeah. Here's something I've noticed, and it sort of came up as you were saying that there is always, whenever there is a lack of attraction, there is always some lack of connection.
Hmm.
And normally there is a lack of connection to self
Yeah.
from the point that you were making. And so that becomes like when we are deeply connected and present and conscious with ourselves, we're really not okay being in relationships where we feel disconnected from our partner, I have found.
Yeah.
Now, to your point, that will ebb and flow. We will go through seasons. There may be variables that impact why that is the case. Absolutely, and our work is to get back into the space of consciousness of, like, really, like, doing the things that I know that I need to do to take care of myself and bring myself back into my life,
Mhm.
because that is what I have control over, and so that looks like I get back into, the things that make me feel good, the things that make me feel empowered, the rituals that I use to, like, tap into my capital S self every day, and inevitably, I find we just start to see our life through a different lens. We start to see our partner through a different lens. But I have never seen where it's just like, oh, we're just not attracted, but every other part of our connection is so deep and rich. And listen, I think that we can certainly like have that and like realize, oh, like we've evolved into a friendship.
I was just gonna
And
say,
then
isn't that a friendship?
let's have that
Yeah.
conversation that
Mhm.
maybe this relationship needs to change form because there's no longer um like that physical attraction element of this connection, and beautiful. And listen, I hear the privilege even as that's coming out of my mouth. Not everybody has the ability to just say like, let's just be friends and part ways. Like sometimes we need to stay in the physical home container together. And very long, convoluted way of saying what you're saying is absolutely the case. That I think it's always our responsibility to say, if there's a disconnection between us, which normally attraction has to do with that connection between us, am I connected to myself? And what I find is very rarely is there not some work for us to do around our like our own relationship with me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wonder, I mean, as I'm thinking this, I don't even know if there's an answer for it, but I wonder if, to be on the receiving end of it, the receiving end of, what this person was asking in the question of like, "Oh, my partner's not attracted to me anymore." I wonder if there is, maybe we've already said it, but I wonder if there's some kind of advice for depersonalizing that. Like, I wonder if there's
Mm.
some kind of way of looking at that where, you know, yeah, depersonalizing it. I guess I'm trying to say it in a fluffy way, but that's just, I guess, what I mean.
Well, I think the way to depersonalize that is like whenever someone says something to me that I feel resistant to, what I do is I look for what part of that could be true. Where is
Mm,
there truth in what they're saying? Instead of just being in the space of defense,
they're wrong,
I
I'm right.
find, yeah, I find it much more useful to be in the space of curiosity around like where might I have some blind spots here? Where might I not be attracted to myself because I'm not really in um, conscious relationship with caring for myself well and prioritizing myself and my needs and my relationship with me. Um, and if you do that inquiry and you're like, nah, man, I feel like really good about my relationship with me, then I think there's deeper layers of conversation with that person because maybe when we're in that space, like this just like we're just not attracted. Like, and it's like one of those I wish we had that person here so we could be like, are you attracted to them? Um,
And are you
but
attracted to you? I mean, I think there's so
well,
many
but that's
variations of this conversation, right?
But that's my thing, like, I
Hmm.
think if that person is saying, "I'm not attracted to you anymore," instead of just saying, like, "That hurts me," which is, like, the gut response that all of us have, really saying, "Am I attracted to me? Am I
Mm,
attracted to the person I am?" Because here's the thing, like, we talked about this a little while ago, I have had periods where I was very unattracted to my partner, and I was so unbelievably unattracted to myself and
mm,
disconnected from my own life force. And that's what that was about. Now, the more that I got back in relationship with myself and back into like a space of empowerment, one, I was a lot more turned on by life in general. I'm like, everything was turning me on. But like, two, couldn't tell me nothing. Like, I wish somebody would tell me. Like, I'm like, okay, well, that's your problem. Like, I know, you know what I'm saying. But like, I think it's really like, how do I get into relationship with the truth of this for me? Like, am I attracted to me really?
mm. Yeah, it's a lot of like, there's a lot of yes ands in this conversation. It's a lot of like different ways to look at it, different angles to take, um, maybe even some conversation starters to have
Mm,
with this other person, and hopefully it is something that you can have multiple conversations about, that it's not, I mean, look, what would be painful or sad, I suppose, is if, well, and I've seen this happen, I mean, a bunch, but like one person comes to the person and says, I'm not attracted to you anymore, let's break up. And that's like it, right? Like that's the extent of the conversation. I think that is unfortunate if there's none of the ability to do, I guess, some of the things that you've just been talking about, which is to really like do the self inquiry and do that. And listen, if that's the case and that's how it's stated and that's how it's ended, then shit. I mean, that's information about that person's capacity too, but or willingness to have vulnerable conversations or look at themselves. Um, so I guess as I'm saying that out loud, I'm like, well, I guess if that's how it's if that's how it's been presented, then
and I dream of a day when we as a society don't feel like endings are the worst thing,
yeah.
meaning even if this person does break up with you and you guys are meant to be together, can we have faith in our like ability to find our way back to one another? We're just so like scared of the death of anything. Like maybe that's not the worst thing. Maybe that person goes out there and like does life without this person for a minute and is like, hey, actually, I had a pretty good thing. Like, maybe I'm a little more attracted than I realized, but it's
Right.
like, oh God, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I think societally, I would just love for us to like not see relationships ending as a failure or this is negative. And listen, it's not me saying like just throw in the towel the minute you guys are uncomfortable. That's not what I'm saying. But sometimes we really take one another for granted when we're like in the space of like, I just can't lose this relationship. This
Hmm.
person feels like, to some extent, at least, there's a little not that like this is my person and I want them, right? Like that's
Yeah.
not where we are. So maybe get out there and test the waters and see if this is your person. You might be surprised.
Yeah.
I find that happens often. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I think it's empowerment of self. It's I mean, I guess all roads point to this no matter what conversation we're having. It's like self-empowerment, like looking inward. How do I become more attracted to myself and to my life?
Mm,
Less focus on them, more focus on you, not in a selfish way, but in a healthy, interdependent way, right? And then trusting that the chips are going to fall where they will, and you'll be okay either way, and that things will play out in the way that they're supposed to play out.
yeah, I love that. With what you just said, I think energetically,
Mhm.
focus on you and see how things shift between you
Yeah.
and this person. Because if I were a betting woman, and I am, I would bet money you are very focused on this person that is not attracted to you.
Mhm.
And if you bring the focus back to yourself, all of a sudden, energetically, it becomes like, whoa, where'd you go? Right. And that may not happen, but I would bet it would. I would just like, I would wager that that's what's going to shift in the energy between you. So
Mm.
focus inward.
Focus inward.